Hello and welcome to another episode of Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and today I am joined by a man which we have breaking news is the newest replacement member of One Direction. His name is Mike Roth.
Yes, I am. I was actually thinking about making my own boy band.
Yeah.
For people who aren't really of the age.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, instead of this better idea that I had, I will settle for One Direction.
Joining One Direction.
Yeah.
I love the choice. Great. I cannot wait to see how you fit in.
I'm going to be the older guy that creeps out the girls.
Just taking it on
They
the
don't
road.
have that in the boy band
You're
yet.
just taking your act on the road is what it sounds like. This week we have several movies on the marquee to discuss. And so, Mike, I'm going to let you jump right in with the first movie that we have. What do you got, sir?
I have It Follows. It was like a limited release movie, but it's really picking up steam. A lot of people are liking it.
Very small promotion budget.
I actually just heard about it, I'd say a week and a half ago, and it's been out for 3 weeks. If you ever go to the site Movie Box Office Mojo, you could tell that they show how many theaters it adds on. It's just it's really catching steam right now. But of course, we're in a wasteland of really not too many good horror movies for quite a long time. It Follows is a low-budget film, but still done extremely well, about a girl named Jay. She should be just thinking about being a teenager, and she just wants to date boys, and she goes out on a date, and it goes awry, which you'll see in this trailer right here. After having relations with someone, you contract a stalker, pretty much. It always follows you. It doesn't ever look like the same thing. It could be someone you know, it could be a stranger. The only thing you know is it's always coming straight at you, and the only way to get rid of it is to pass it on to someone else.
It's a really rough sexually transmitted disease.
It is pretty much, it is a sexually transmitted disease. What I loved about this movie was the setting and the obvious throwback to 80s culture. You had the music definitely comes right out of Halloween. The set design that the scenery that they use is Detroit, which I don't know why more movies isn't played in Detroit. The land there is really cheap, and you could do anything you want to a house. It gave a really good, creepy feel. This isn't too deep of a movie. I pretty much told you the plot. Everybody's going to know what's going to happen throughout this movie, but the way they did it, I think, was refreshing. And there was some really good, startling, creepy thrills in this movie.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, and like you say, which we never are clarified. We never explained what it is. It is always on foot.
Yeah,
just kind of walking at you. And the thing I kind of dig is it's not like horror movie thing where it's walking and you run and you turn around and it's right on top of you.
Yeah.
Like, no, if you run, you can outrun it. It's just walking. Yeah. So that's part of the deal. Like, get in the car and drive, and you buy yourself some time.
The creepy thing is it could be anything. There was a scene where I could have sworn it was one of Jay's friends that was continuously walking. And the other thing is no one else could see it except for the person afflicted with the disease. And you see the person getting closer and closer, and you're like, is anybody going to tell? Is that her friend? And it was also done in the daylight too, which is very rare for horror movies. If they could creep you out and scare you during the day, you got something special. And I think that's why this movie is catching steam. I kind of hope that horror movies kind of look at this as, yeah, you can make money with low budget. Just give me a feel, give me something different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I noticed right away with this movie was the location. I loved the feel. It felt real. It didn't feel like a set. Nothing felt staged. It was rough around the edges.
Yeah,
it didn't look perfect. It looked very low budget. It's made for $2 million.
Their special effects was not that great.
When they did attempt special effects, there weren't really any special effects.
No.
When they did attempt them, they weren't very successful
with them.
Corny. But I liked just the feel. It felt like a real world. It felt like a throwback. It felt like a George Romero type movie in
Very
both
much.
the shots, the bleakness, and just the Anytown USA look of it, and
the music, definitely.
Well, and the thing is that the music was the driving force behind the movie, that the use of music set the entire tone. Without the music, there's no scares in this movie. The scares are predicated by the music. You take the music out, it's people walking at other people. There's no scares, which I love. There's no jump scares or things being thrown at the camera or anything like that. It's all, 99% of it is, I'm sitting here and someone's walking behind me. The audience can see somebody's walking, but the character on screen can't see it. And if you just see it, it's just somebody walking. But then the music hits, and you're like, all right, really great use of music.
With the music, it wasn't like in all horror movies where it seems like anytime there's something creepy.
No.
There was plenty of times where I would see someone, and they're walking, and it never really catches up as part of the horror, but the audience is seeing it, and I thought it was very effective.
It was exactly very effective. It was a great throwback feel to the early '80s thriller horror movies before it turned to all slasher all the time.
Yeah.
And the horror movies, the thriller horrors that I enjoyed growing up, and it felt great. And when I talk about the music too, it's not even just the horror beats soundtrack, but even just as things are happening. They had great use of music. There was a couple of moments where the music was a little rough, a little grating in a couple of parts, where they went with a dong, dong, dong for just really loud. There was a couple of parts in there. I mean, there was a kill particularly that got a little uncomfortable. There was a couple of uncomfortable moments. There's a lot of heavy nudity in this movie.
Oh, a lot. But it's not like, again, other horror movies where the nudity is... It's always an extremely attractive woman, and it's always a sexual feel. The nudity in this one is supposed to make you feel queasy, uncomfortable.
Well, right, and it does have the message of, since we told you how this it is contracted, this does play itself along the classic horror trope of teenage sex leads to bad things.
Yes.
You're going to die if you have sex as a teenager. A well-worn thing we've learned in horror movies.
That's why I watch horror movies with my children. And I always say, you know what they're doing? You know what's going to happen to them.
Right,
they're
exactly.
Going to die.
I absolutely love this movie. I actually want to go rewatch this movie. I gave it 4 stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I truly love this movie. I recommend it to anybody. It's great to see a small movie done like this, done right. Like I say, it's not perfect.
No.
It's not CGI'd to death, and it doesn't take the feel out of it. It looks great. It looks like the low-budget film it is, but they just did the right things right. They focused on the right things, and I really dug it.
I really have no huge complaints with this movie. There are some little things that I thought was a little hipster, like the amount of tube TVs in this world. But and tube TVs on top of tube TVs.
Hey, for some of us, that's reality growing up.
Some of us, yeah. But I believe this was supposedly current times, because you also had that one girl that had the funky clamshell.
Yeah, like a Kindle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this movie was excellent, and I'm really surprised. I gave it a 3.5, and to have me have a horror movie, a half a star under, that is impressive.
I love horror movies when they're done right. The unfortunate part is that 90% of them are cop-outs or just done terribly.
Yeah, and
that's why I love this, how it feels like a throwback to the ones that I used to love.
This was an extremely refreshing movie, and I'm hoping it won't be refreshing, but I hope it spawns a new idea of how to make horror movies.
We'll see. One can hope. One can hope. The next movie we have on the marquee this week is the animated feature Home, starring the voice work of Jim Parsons, Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. We also have Steve Martin, and we have, let's see, Rihanna and Jennifer Lopez. Those are our four main voices, directed by Tim Johnson. And it stars Jim Parsons as an alien named O. And he is from a race that comes onto planets and kind of ships all of the people from that planet to one particular area, and then they take over and make it their planet. And they're on the run from another species. And O gets separated and meets this young girl, voiced by Rihanna. And there's a big misunderstanding because her mom was taken away by these aliens. She managed to escape. She doesn't trust him.
Oh, good reason.
Right, because he is one of these invading species. And he's awkward, and they form this friendship as he has a mission to try and get back. She has a mission to find her mom. They have an uneasy partnership as they kind of go along trying to successfully complete each of their missions, I guess. And this kind of uneasy alliance between the two of them forms into a friendship and such. And it's, if you enjoy movies voiced by Jim Parsons, talking as though he is a Google translator reading something, that got a little rough for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cute, and there's parts, and it's, you know, almost like a Yoda type speak, but it is very much like when I have tried to translate an email through Google Translator, and like, wow, yeah, this isn't English at all.
No.
But you know, I was actually surprised. I went into home not really expecting a whole lot. We've seen this trailer hundreds of times, and it got a big rating on me.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the music in the trailer is not the music in the movie. I thought the music in the movie was better.
Yeah, it was all done by Rihanna.
By Rihanna, yeah. And I thought the voice work was actually good. I thought Rihanna was great as the little girl.
Steve Martin actually really surprised me. I had no idea it was Steve Martin until after the credits started rolling.
Oh, really?
And I was like, wow, he did a good job.
Yeah, he was the captain of the alien species.
Yep.
Pretty funny.
For the shushing. What was that?
The shush rock or whatever,
yeah.
right? The shushing stone.
Sure.
What I thought I was actually surprised by was the heart of this movie as it went along. It kind of, as it started, I was like, okay, you know, and I wasn't terribly interested in it. As it went along, the heart of the movie kind of got revealed and actually drew me in a lot. And I was actually surprised. I actually dug it more than I'd thought.
I really didn't feel the heart of this movie until much later into the film. I really saw, well, no, continue.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I thought it was more of a cute movie, and it just remained to do a lot of visual cute effects and the silly speak. I really didn't grab any heart from it until pretty much the end. And you already kind of knew where the end was coming because you saw clips of the scene that leads up to the end pretty early in the movie. But it didn't really catch me until the end. So, you know, I felt a little disappointed that I had to get that far into a somewhat short movie in order for me to actually feel something for the characters.
Yeah, see, I guess, I don't know, maybe expectations or something, but I went in and just, as it went along, suddenly I felt myself kind of being pulled into the story a little more. And I thought it looked really good for
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I enjoyed the look of it all. Really, if I could change one thing, it would be just the not even the voice, but the language that O used. It got really old really quick.
Yeah.
It got very annoying. And when that was kind of like the cutesy part of the movie, just keep going back to that same well over and over again. But I liked the interplay between O and the little girl, and I liked the quiet moments between them as they kind of, there's a betrayal at one point and a friendship. They start to realize, you know, are they actually friends? Are they enemies? And so I was actually kind of endeared by this movie. But what did you end up giving Home?
Well, I ended up giving Home 2.5. You know, it was pretty, but it definitely wasn't for anyone in my age group or even in the teen years. I think this was a movie more for kids who still like Sesame Street and Barney and not to date myself. I know Barney's not out anymore, but
say what?
Who? But it was cute and it was, I thought, very shallow up until the very end. I really wanted more out of it. Beautiful colors, but. See, I love Steve Martin.
I dug it a little more than you did, I think. I give it 3.5 stars. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good animated movie, kind of carrying on these nice run of animated movies that we've had. I enjoyed it. All the kids, the theater was absolutely packed the night I went. Like every seat in the house full. And a lot of buzz coming out. Everybody seemed to love it. I went on a Tuesday night. Yeah. The experience may not have been great, but actually the movie superseded that. Sometimes I will unknowingly let an experience in the theater tamper my thoughts on a movie that I saw because I'm irritated, but actually this kind of superseded that.
And this really doesn't have anything to do with the movie, but the audience, I, at the same time, went on a Tuesday, and Tuesdays at Marcus Theaters is packed. If you don't know, it's your $5 Tuesday. So you get some great people in, and sometimes you get people who really probably shouldn't be going to a movie, but they had $5 on them. In my theater, I went to see Breakfast Club, the 30th anniversary, and it was a packed house, and everybody was great. They laughed, they had a good time, no one was talking, no one was being overly annoying.
They were all in my theater.
Or talking about what's going to happen next. Yeah. People got up and they applauded at the end. It was a great time. I haven't had that much fun sitting in an audience in quite a long time.
That's always a good time. The final movie that we have on the marquee this week, sir, why don't you take it away on this one?
Well, I went to see the comedy that came out. Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart play in a movie called Get Hard. Will Ferrell is a millionaire who is, he claims to be framed, not going to tell you anything more about that, claims to be framed of embezzling.
Right.
And he's going to prison. He doesn't think he's going to go, but the judge says, you're going to go, and he has 30 days to get his affairs together. So being he's a racist, and he just assumes Kevin Hart has gone to prison. So he asks him to help him get ready so that he could be not picked on or molested when he goes to federal prison.
He wants to survive prison unmolested.
He wants to survive prison. Most of the movie is just Will Ferrell playing off of Kevin Hart, and both of them are extremely funny characters. It was also nice to see Greg T. Nelson. He plays Martin, who is the stepdad. I love him.
Coach himself.
I miss Coach, I really do. But Dauber does a better Patrick, definitely. Basically, it is just a 3-character movie. There's 4, but it's just Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell going back and forth. A lot of their scenes are funny. I don't think there was too much where I don't think they were connected at all. They both are very funny people, but I didn't get a chemistry between them. I'd say half of the scenes. I don't know why this is. Maybe it's the height difference. Will Ferrell is
well. Kevin Hart's going to have that with most people, though.
He's a tall guy. He's a short guy. There is 11-inch difference.
But that's supposed to be.
That's part of the joke.
Right. That's part of the joke. Because look at the big dumb white guy and look at the small black guy, and there's a misunderstanding because he's racist. Thinks all black guys spend time in prison.
You know what's? It's a crazy fact. A little trivia fact. In this movie, Kevin Hart. He is a guy who's never been in prison, but he has to pretend he has been in prison so he could teach Will Ferrell.
Right.
Kevin Hart went to jail at 17.
Well, there you go.
It's just weird.
Nice job.
So maybe he didn't have to
channel.
He just kind of.
Yeah, this movie, man, it's odd because if you're following along the storyline, this is the second movie in a row from Kevin Hart where he plays a guy who is hired to do a job to help somebody.
Yeah, you're right.
It's following in the same footsteps as Wedding Ringer. And I thought Kevin Hart was really funny. I thought he was by far the best part of this movie. I thought Will Ferrell had some funny scenes, but I think a lot of the worst of Will Ferrell, when you talk about generic worst of Will Ferrell, a lot of that showed up in this movie too, where he just kind of leaned on the same old that he has gone and kind of walked through several movies with, that he kind of leaned on that again, and it got old.
Yeah, some jokes.
And I thought Kevin Hart did a really good job. And I say there were some good laughs in here, but there were some real groaners. There were some ones that just they telegraphed the joke for 5 minutes until they got to it. It's like, yeah, I knew this was going.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed with it.
No. And this is actually it's been common with movies lately. You have some good comedians out there, and somehow they're just not connecting.
Yeah, I don't know if you're right on when you say the chemistry between the two of them wasn't always spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well, that there were a lot of moments where it felt like each of them were doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Each of them had their mission and their scene, and it just didn't feel connected.
Like Abbott Costello during their bad years, you could tell that they probably
they worked on their they worked on the act separately.
Yeah,
and then showed up the day of. Yeah, and so it's tough because there was some funny, but especially after seeing The Wedding Ringer earlier this year, I thought that was a really great Kevin Hart movie, and I thought this was okay. And I don't think through any fault of his own. I think the script didn't do him any favors, and I enjoy Will Ferrell, and when he's really funny, I love him. But it feels like I'm seeing a lot of the same out of him, and that's been an argument about Will Ferrell for the last few movies.
Oh, I really think this is his shtick. He's not going to be a Jim Carrey in life where he was able to progress, or Steve Martin. He was able to progress and do many different things. Will Ferrell is going to be Will Ferrell.
See, now, and I enjoy Will Ferrell when he's gone serious, when he did like Stranger Than Fiction or Everything Must Go, some of his more serious roles that are still comedic, but have more of a serious tone. I've enjoyed him in those. It feels like him playing dumb, kind of blank-faced, oblivious to what's really going on in the world, big dumb white guy.
Yeah.
That shtick is really getting tiresome for me.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it now. I mean, I've been seeing him pull that maneuver since 1997. It's worn thin. And so for me, I gave Get Hard 2.5 stars.
Yeah.
I say real average. If you want to check it out, I would wait to rent it myself. I wouldn't rush out to see it.
I gave it the same. I wish I could have gave it better, but it just really needed
They say
more.
there's some funny moments in there.
There are some funny moments.
But
I'd say laughing out loud, I probably did it maybe 3-4 times.
Yeah, I would agree on that. So having discussed that, our movie throwback for this week is another movie about people hiring somebody off circumstances of miscommunications. Much like Will Ferrell hired Kevin Hart because he just assumed that Kevin Hart had been to prison and could teach him things. We are jumping back and throwing back to 1986 classic comedy, Three Amigos, starring Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, directed by John Landis, about three actors who were big movie stars.
Oh, yeah.
There they are right there. And they're hired by this town to come and save them from the nefarious El Guapo.
Yes.
And they assume they're getting an acting part. The town assumes they're getting real heroes. It's a whole comedy of misunderstandings as they go down. And El Guapo's a real dude, and he does not like these gringos.
No.
And it is really, I mean, you talk about Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, Martin Short, all three in their prime, I would say.
They were powerhouses.
Oh.
If you could think of three of the biggest comedians
at the time
today and just throw them all together, that's what this would be.
I remember seeing this in the theater as a young man and just being blown away that these three are on screen together. How many times did I do that?
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious. Dusty Bottoms, Lucky Day, Ned Niederlander, they're a lot of fun. Great little song and dance, My Little Buttercup. I still sing that to my daughter these days.
Yeah, I quote this movie every once in a while.
It's great. A plethora? Would you say I have a plethora?
I love the plane joke. Not going to say it now. I'm just saying. Plane joke I use a lot.
Really, if you have not seen Three Amigos, I don't know what's wrong, but you need to check it out. It's so much fun. And really, 1986, these three men were as hot as it gets for comedians coming out of Saturday Night Live. One of the great Saturday Night Live films of all time.
And these guys, they also became really accomplished actors past this.
I'd say two of them did.
Yeah, two of them. Yeah, one I don't see very much. Chevy Chase is a little bit...
Chevy made one more good vacation movie and then checked out of Hollywood for quite a while.
But then he was in Community for a while.
And
it's usually
tucked his way off that show.
Yeah, it's not really his character, it's his behind the scenes that usually gets.
But we highly recommend Three Amigos.
Oh, yeah.
Go out and check it out.
If you haven't seen it,
even if you have, rewatch it. It is a fun time. A comedy of miscommunication and errors. Hey, look up here! Look! I just love that whole scene. You too. Oh my gosh! All right. So, having looked back, let's take a look forward at the week of April 10th. We have a couple of movies to discuss. The first one is The Longest Ride, the movie that Mike is looking forward to the most. The newest Nicholas Sparks novel straight to movies.
You know what I love more than teen romances?
Nicholas Stark's romantic movies. This one starring is all about a man and a young girl, I guess a guy and a young girl, and he's a bull rider, and they fall in love, and she says, I can't live with you if you could die at any time riding that bull. We get Alan Alda coming onto the scene as telling kind of a parallel story. I don't know.
It doesn't seem too parallel, but
hey,
I'm hoping it'll be the best movie of the year.
He was in love once, and you're in love, and yeah. The other movie, which I am hopeful we'll get, it is in a limited release that week, but it is Ex Machina.
Yes.
Ex Machina is a movie about AI technology, and a guy is brought onto this massive, sprawling compound of this man who's been working on artificial intelligence, and he's used basically as a guinea pig for this artificial intelligence. How real can we make it? Kind of reminded me of Simone, if you ever saw that with Al Pacino, the Sim 1, artificial intelligence. That might be a throwback. And but it looks really interesting. I really want to see this movie. I'm really hopeful that we get to see it.
Because really, the only big one that's out is The Longest Ride,
and we could talk about it for a half hour. We shall see. We shall see.
We shall see.
Before we go, as always, we would like to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, for bringing us in, showing us these movies. We are looking forward to our new theater opening up soon. Yep. But if you have a Marcus Theater that you are near, we highly recommend you go check them out. We encourage you to go and find us. Keep in touch with us via Facebook, Real Reviews TV will bring you there, or going to Twitter and finding us at Real Reviews TV. You can follow us, you can like us, you can talk to us, you can give us your opinions or your thoughts, or just
presents are always welcome.
Follow along with what we do. Where else can they find us, sir?
You can find us on YouTube. I usually upload the show onto YouTube right away, but and I don't do it with fanfare. This is mainly for the people with the Rikus, the Fire Sticks, stuff like that. If you can't watch our show for some reason because of your devices that you use, please use YouTube. Follow us.
Yes,
that would be awesome.
Definitely. And of course, the other spot you can always find us is at ksun.tv. You can go on there. You can find all past episodes, everything streaming, all kinds of content on there for you. Next week, we will be discussing
Only one thing.
Furious 7 is our movie for next week, the 7th movie in the Fast and the Furious franchise. We will probably also have a little surprise for you. It won't just be Furious talk.
I got one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I had an April Fool's joke that Michael Bay was going to be here to talk about The Longest Ride. That was April Fool's.
Man.
I am not excited to review this movie with Michael Bay. He won't be here.
Boy. But you never know. The offer's still out there.
Never know. The offer's there. I'm sure he watches our show every week.
I'm sure he does. It seems like something Michael Bay would do.
Yeah.
It seems like The Longest Ride is a movie that he would enjoy.
If you ever see our desk blow up, you know Michael Bay's here.
He's been in attendance. So next week we will be talking about some Furious 7. The fury is building.
Yep, I'm on my marathon.
Things are going to explode, speaking of which. So, but until next week, my name is Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.